Have you ever wondered what goes on inside the heart of a dog? A dog with no home, no family, and no name? Does he still dream? Does he still hope that somewhere, someone is waiting for him too? This is the story of one such dog. A small, lonely stray wandering the streets. No one knows where he came from. No one knows his name. He doesn't belong to anyone, and no one belongs to him. He walks through quiet streets every day, his tiny paws leaving prints in the dirt. He stops outside windows, watching families eat dinner together. He sees children playing with their happy, well-fed dogs. And for a moment, just for a moment, he imagines what it would feel like to be part of something like that. But dreams are a luxury for a stray. The world doesn't stop for dogs like him. Doors close in his face. People turn away. He's invisible, just another shadow blending into the streets. But what no one knew was that this little stray, forgotten by the world, was about to become a hero. His name was Benji. And this is his story. During the day, Benji wandered the streets like a ghost. His nose stayed low to the ground, searching for anything, a leftover crust of bread, a half-eaten apple, even a scrap of paper that smelled like food. Most days he found nothing. And on the days he did, it was never enough to fill his little belly. When the skies darkened, Benji would find shelter wherever he could, under broken benches, beneath rusted staircases, or inside old cardboard boxes left behind. On rainy nights, the cold would creep into his bones, but there was nowhere else to go. The streets were his home, whether they welcomed him or not. Still, in this harsh world, small moments of kindness felt like miracles. There was an old shopkeeper at the corner store, a man with tired eyes and a soft spot for strays. Sometimes, when no one was looking, he would drop a biscuit or a small piece of meat near the door. Benji would wait patiently, always careful not to get too close. He knew the rules: don't beg, don't bark, don't get in the way. But that one small act of kindness felt like a feast, and Benji never forgot it. Despite everything, Benji's heart stayed soft. Every afternoon, he would sit quietly at the edge of the park, watching the children play. He never dared to join them. No one ever called him over, and no one ever reached out a hand. But that didn't matter. Just watching them laugh and chase each other made Benji feel a little less alone, like somehow, he was part of the happiness too. One sunny afternoon, everything changed. Benji was sitting near the park, watching the children play like he always did, when two little faces turned toward him. A boy and a girl, brother and sister, stood just a few feet away, their eyes filled with curiosity instead of fear. Most children would look away, or worse, throw a stone to scare him off. But not these two. They smiled. And then, they did something Benji never expected. They called him closer. Benji's paws hesitated at first. Strays like him knew better than to trust too easily. But their voices were soft, and their hands held out a piece of bread, torn into two, just for him. Slowly, cautiously, Benji stepped forward and took it. From that moment, something changed in his heart. The children started visiting him every day, always sneaking out a little food, a biscuit, a piece of fruit, even a bite of their own sandwiches. They played gentle games with him, rolling a ball or tossing a stick. They even gave him a name, Benji. And for the first time in his life, Benji wasn't just a stray dog, he was someone's friend. Of course, their parents warned them. Stay away from stray dogs, they might be dirty, they could bite. But the children didn't care. They knew Benji was different. He wasn't dangerous. He was just lonely. Day by day, the bond between Benji and the children grew stronger. And for the first time ever, Benji felt like he belonged to someone, and they belonged to him. It was just another afternoon at the park, or at least, that's how it started. Benji lay under his favorite tree, watching his two little friends laugh and chase each other, just like they always did. The sun was warm, the breeze gentle. For a stray dog, moments like this felt almost like a dream where he was part of something, part of a family. But dreams break faster than they come. Suddenly, a dark van crept toward the park, its engine low and slow. The doors slid open, and before anyone could understand what was happening, two rough hands grabbed the children. Their laughter turned into screams. Benji's ears shot up. His heart raced. He barked, loud, desperate barks that echoed through the empty street. He ran after the van, his small legs struggling to keep up, his voice breaking with panic. But no one listened. To the world, Benji was still just a stray, a nobody. The parents came running, their faces pale with fear. Neighbors gathered, and someone called the police. But Benji was the only one who saw everything: the color of the van, the direction it went, the fear in his friend's eyes. For the first time in his life, Benji felt something stronger than hunger, stronger than loneliness. He had a purpose. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about saving the only two people who had ever loved him. Benji stood in the middle of the street, his heart pounding in his chest. The van had disappeared, but its smell, that sharp, oily scent mixed with fear, still hung in the air. Benji lowered his nose to the ground and followed the trail. His paws carried him past familiar streets, past the little shop where the old man left him biscuits, past the park where he once felt safe. Soon, the streets ended, and the trail led into places Benji had never dared to go. Dark alleys filled with broken glass and sharp metal, wide fields where the wind howled and no one could hear him if he cried. But Benji didn't stop. His legs were tired. His paws hurt. But his heart knew only one thing: the children needed him. As the sky darkened, the rain began to fall. Cold drops soaked his fur, making it heavy and hard to move. Mud clung to his paws, slowing him down with every step. But still, Benji kept moving, through puddles, over broken fences, across roads where cars sped past without ever seeing him. Benji had no voice to call for help, no strength to fight, and no one beside him. All he had was love. And for Benji, that was enough. The trail led Benji to the edge of town, a place where no one lived anymore. The houses here were broken and empty, with windows shattered and doors hanging loose. Benji's nose twitched. The smell was stronger now, the same greasy scent from the van, mixed with something else: fear. The children were close. Carefully, Benji crept closer, hiding behind an old wooden fence. Through a crack in the wall, he saw them, the two little faces he knew so well, sitting on the cold floor inside a dark room. Their hands were tied, and their eyes were red from crying. Benji's heart ached. He wanted to rush in, to bark and bite and chase the bad men away, but what could one small dog do against humans? Benji didn't know how to fight. But he knew how to think. He began creating noise, knocking over a trash can, sending old bottles crashing to the ground. He barked as loud as he could, his voice echoing through the empty street. Inside the house, the kidnappers stirred. One of them opened the door to check, grumbling about some stupid stray. But Benji wasn't just making noise, he was leading them away, step by step, further from the children. For a dog with no voice, Benji had found a way to speak, with courage, cleverness, and love. At first, the kidnappers didn't think much of the noise. Just a stray dog, they thought, digging through trash, looking for food. But Benji didn't stop. He barked louder. He knocked over anything he could find: broken wood, rusty buckets, anything that would make a sound. Every time they ignored him, Benji found a new way to be louder, braver, harder to ignore. Finally, one of the men snapped. "What is with this dog?" he shouted, storming outside. When he saw Benji standing there, small and muddy but fearless, his anger boiled over. With a cruel kick, the man sent Benji rolling across the ground. For a moment, everything hurt: his ribs, his legs, even his heart. But Benji didn't run away. He stood back up. Every bark, every movement was part of his plan. Because while the men were chasing him, shouting at him, trying to drive him off, inside the house, the children saw their chance. With trembling hands, they worked their ropes loose and slipped out the back door. Benji saw them, just for a second, and his heart swelled with relief. But his job wasn't done. Not yet. He had to lead the danger far away. Even with pain shooting through his body, Benji ran faster than he ever had before. Through mud, over fences, under gates, the kidnappers followed, but they couldn't catch him. Benji ran until the only sound left was his own breath and the pounding of his heart. And somewhere, far behind him, the children were safe at last. As the kidnappers stumbled through the dark, cursing the little dog who had led them on a wild chase, the sound of sirens filled the air. The police had arrived. The children were already safe in their arms, trembling but unharmed. And they couldn't stop talking about the dog. "It was Benji!" the boy cried. "He saved us," his sister added. "He never left us, not even for a second." The police were stunned. A stray dog? Saving children from dangerous criminals? It sounded impossible, until they saw Benji, limping back toward the children, his fur soaked, his paw bleeding, but his eyes shining with relief. Word spread fast. Neighbors, shopkeepers, even the parents who once warned their children to stay away from stray dogs, they all gathered around Benji. For the first time, Benji wasn't invisible. He wasn't just a nobody wandering the streets. He was a hero. And when the children opened their arms and called his name, Benji didn't hesitate. He ran straight into the only place he ever wanted to be, their arms, their home, their family. Life was never the same for Benji after that day. No more cold nights under broken benches. No more searching through trash for scraps of food. No more being invisible. Instead, Benji had something he never even dared to dream of: a real home. A warm corner to sleep in, a soft blanket just for him, and two best friends who called his name every morning with smiles on their faces. And it wasn't just the children who loved him now. The whole town knew his story, the little stray dog who had nothing, but gave everything to save the only friends he ever had. People who once closed their doors now bent down to pet him. The old shopkeepers saved the best biscuits just for Benji. Even the parents who once warned the children about strays thanked Benji for bringing their kids home safely. Benji never asked for any of this. He didn't need medals or praise. All he ever wanted was a place to belong, and now, he had it. Because sometimes, the greatest heroes aren't the ones who speak the loudest. Sometimes they're the ones who can't speak at all, but whose actions speak louder than words ever could. And that's the story of Benji, the stray dog who became a hero. If you've ever loved a dog, if you've ever felt that unspoken bond, that silent promise of loyalty, then this story is for you. Share it with someone who understands what it truly means to be loved by a dog. If this story touched your heart, share your own dog's story in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe my channel. Thank you.